Do we have everybody in and ready to get going?
Let's just get started and they'll trickle in as they come in.
All right, perfect. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Joe Devine. I work for Realtor.com and OpCity, and hopefully I will be able to help answer some questions and get you guys in a place to have the most opportunity to succeed and get the most leads possible. See, I'm on a huge screen here. That's nice. I appreciate you putting this together. I know that Tammy kind of outlined how we want to do some of the format of this, and I guess I'll let Tammy kind of interject and say that we have questions and whatnot. But I wanted to at least kind of go over a couple of things kind of initially to give you all an idea of exactly what we're doing and what we're looking at, and hopefully kind of dispel any things that y'all are unsure of with Market VIP and OpCity. So let's see here. We're going to go to agent score. So I know that I've shared this with Tammy, and she has put it out in an email. I'll add it to the chat here. I don't know if everybody has access to be able to actually click on the links, but one of the first things I want to go over is the things that we're doing to look at your score and to figure out who we're going to give the most leads to first. Is this large enough for everybody to see?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So the first thing I want to do is kind of go over some of the scoring stuff, and I'll pull up. So this is the list of the agents that we have here, and everybody can see the scoring right here of like 112, 113. Do y'all see that? So the agent score ranges from 80 to 120. 120 being the highest, and there are a few things that we're looking at in order to figure out an agent's score. One of the most important things that I can say about the score is that it's only a 90-day look back. So oftentimes I've had these kind of conversations with other brokerages that are trying to gain traction. One of the first things I typically will hear about from an agent is like, oh, well, I'm in a place of not being able to get enough. Everybody's doing better than me. And, there will be kind of almost a feeling of, hopelessness on like, oh, I have no way to get up because I didn't take it seriously at first, but now I'm trying to. I want to dispel that. I've done this enough times. I want to say at least a couple dozen times with other brokerages where agents can literally flip their score in the period of a day. Right. So there are certain things that we can do, and we're hopefully going to cover some of that. So if you're in a place where you felt like, hey, I'm not getting offered very many opportunities, hopefully we can put you in a place to actually understand that this all boils down to an algorithm that your app is in control of, telling our algorithm how to operate. So let's look at the things that we're measuring. And in fact, so I've done a couple of things that I want to point out here. Let's go ahead and look at, I wish I could kind of reorder some of this. Let's compare Marie and Shauna, and I'm going to be really transparent with you guys. I'm sharing a bit of information here that everybody can see, and we're going to compare some of the things that we are looking at, or the algorithm is looking at. So one of the first things that we're looking at and we'll use Marie Miller. Hopefully, Marie, you're okay with that. I'm not putting you in a place of embarrassment, but we want to put everybody in a place of knowing exactly what they can and can't do and where their opportunity is. And Tammy can go in and actually share some of this detailed information with you. So one of the first things we look at is attempt to claiming leads. And again, this is only a 90-day look back. Marie attempts to claim 69% of the leads that we're sending. So claiming referrals, and this is literally the Bible on it. It goes over everything, but this metric is measuring the notifications you have attempted to claim, right? So when that pops up on your phone, and you can hit the claim or the skip, your ability to claim that in a timely fashion is one of the first things that we are measuring, right? Of all the leads that we've sent you, how many of them do you attempt to claim? right? We look at the number of referral notifications you clicked to claim versus the total number of referral notifications you've received. It's important to note that you get credit for every referral you attempt to claim, regardless of whether or not you ultimately win. So even if you don't win, even if you're always late, you still get credit for attempting to claim. Okay? Tammy, feel free to interrupt me if anybody has questions halfway through this. I don't mind kind of doing a sidebar. We doing good?
Yep, we're good.
Cool. All right. The next thing that we look at, and I'll go ahead and, this is where everybody can pay attention. And I want to level with you before I go into the details on this. I understand that the app is not the best way to communicate with the client. I frankly hate it. I don't think it's the best form of communication. It's glitchy and it's not the best consumer experience. But that being said, we can tell the app that we are doing the right thing to understand, to help teach the app, hey, we are trying to make contact. So I want to talk about this. We're going to go ahead and take a peek at Marie's score, and we got Shauna's here as well. So Marie makes contact with 4% of the referrals that we've sent her within the first week of that live transfer. So I'm going to repeat that again. We're looking back the last 90 days of all of the referrals we've sent to Marie. How many of those referrals has she contacted through the app within the first 7 days of that live transfer? Is that clear? Everybody kind of have a good understanding? I know I'm looking at the back of y'all's heads, but hopefully that registers. So the contacting.
Joe,
go ahead.
What I've heard every time you said it is it's through the app.
Through the app. Right. We don't know about stuff you're doing to text, right? Like I'd have no idea if you did it through your own phone. We need to tell the app, tell the algorithm that you're engaged. And frankly, you get credit for it if you only do it once and you never contact them again through the app, as long as you do it within that first 7 days. So let's tell the app what it wants to hear. Right? That's essentially what I'm alluding to. And I'll go ahead and, spoiler alert, this is where most of you have room for opportunity. Just to be broad. So let's read this out loud. This metric measures how diligent you've been about keeping up communication, your active referrals. This is calculated on whether you've called or messaged your active referrals within the first week of assignment. Again, once we've done that live transfer, you can go in the next day, send them a message through the app, and then never use that app to message them again, and you will have received credit for messaging that client.
Hey, Joe, there's an agent, I can't remember which agent told me that. They're here. I'm sorry if I'm using your story. But they had told me that they always send a message through the app immediately just saying, hey, reminder, my phone number I'm going to contact you is this, which gives them their actual cell phone number because it's a contact, and they just send the message through there.
Tammy, I'm having a very hard time hearing you. I don't know if the microphone is muted, but I feel like I'm hearing the microphone like through a different part of all of this. You want to try? It's still tough. I don't know what mic source Zoom is using.
Can you hear me if I stand up by the TV?
Yeah, that's a little better. I'm wondering if it's the projector thing behind you, but
would it be better to stand by the webcam?
Give me some testing.
Is it better if I'm standing down here by the camera?
It's still super echoey. I don't know what mic source y'all. If you click the little arrow next to the microphone, the up arrow next to the microphone in the lower left, you can choose the microphone that your Zoom source is using.
Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Using both. So I was telling you that I had an agent tell me that they always send a message through the app just telling the client that they're going to contact them on this phone number being their cell phone number instead of the app. And that's their one contact immediately.
Yes. So I'm not sure if I understand the question.
No, I'm just telling you that I had an agent tell me that they always do a one contact immediately when they have the client send to them saying, I'll be contacting you on this phone number being their cell phone number because the number apparently coming off the app is a different number.
Yes, every agent is assigned an OpCity, a phone number that is their OpCity phone number. right? Like we do this for a couple of reasons. You know, you can think about it as like, number one, we got to protect the agent. We're not just giving out their cell phone number to everybody, but we still want that client to have a way to contact them. But also, you know, it helps recognize the fact that an agent is making contact with the client and actually communicating with them on a consistent basis. Okay, hopefully that answers your question.
What we need to do to make that happen is one contact through the app in the first 7 days.
Yes.
Okay. An important note is it doesn't include the auto messaging that we send to the client. You have to go in and do your own. Okay. I know there's auto messaging in the app, but you need to go in and do your own. Okay. The next thing that we're looking at is updating the status. So, and I can expand this for anybody. We can use anybody as an example. I'm using these two folks because they've got a couple of closes and, you know, I think they're good examples. So again, I apologize for using you as a, you know, come stand at the front of the class. But contact and referrals for Sean is 11%. Now we're going to look at like updating status. Most agents are very good about updating the status. Sean, I'm looking back, you've got 93% you've updated within the first 7 days of that assignment and every 7 days. I'll tell you that the agents that are the most successful on this platform are eager to go in and update that status because the system literally will reward you for making progress. The minute that you put in that you've met with them or that you've gone house hunting and made offers, done under contract, those are things that allow us to know that you're making progress with clients. Thus, you have a higher likelihood of closing. I've spoken with agents that literally they just put in an update that they spoke, and they're already under contract, but they hadn't put that in. Well, my algorithm doesn't know that. You have to go in and be able to put those pieces forward. So updating status, I'm gonna read it out loud here. It's pretty straightforward. This isn't a hard one. So how consistent you've been with keeping your referrals status updated weekly. Calculate this. We look at the percentage of active referrals you updated on time, right? With every 7 days or sooner over the past 90 days. Again, we're only doing a 90-day look back. So folks that have a score that has room for improvement, it's very easy to quickly change how high your scoring is. I've seen agents literally gain 20, 25 points in the period of 2 or 3 days, just by starting to, use the tools at their disposal. Okay. Meeting in person.
I could have another question.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
When updating the status of someone that is on hold for 3 months or 4 months that they're not paying, as far as, for financing reasons or whatever, do we still have to go in every 7 days and say they're still on hold?
Yes. Well, so if you put them on long-term hold, then you do not need to do that. But I would encourage you, if they're not on hold, if you make any type of status update, if you do speak with them, if you meet with them, if you make any type of progress, that will positively influence your score. So I'm not saying that you need to, but obviously every agent, you can put your clients into hold or long-term hold. It's not measuring the folks that you have in that kind of status and requiring you to update those folks. Okay. All right. So meeting in person. We're looking at how successful you've been of meeting the client face-to-face within the first 2 weeks of assignment. We used to allow you to have a FaceTime and count that as a meeting. That was all during COVID and whatnot. They're just not allowing that anymore. Again, to calculate this, we're looking at all the active referrals assigned to you over the past 90 days. Determine what percentage of those referrals you've moved to met within the first 2 weeks, right? If you're not meeting and you're not able to make time to actually go meet with someone, even if it's a brief meeting, it doesn't necessarily need to be a house hunting, but within 2 weeks of us giving you that live referral, that's something we're measuring. Keep in mind, just because you don't meet with them doesn't mean that negatively necessarily impacts your score, but we can look at a couple of examples here. So we've got Marie. She's met 5 of the 13 clients that we've transferred to her. Looking back the last 90 days, of those 13 clients, she's met 5 of them. Sean has met 5 of the 14, and these are green scores. These are looking good, right? So it's not like we're looking for 100% success rate, but if you're not meeting with clients at all, right, that would negatively impact your score. One of y'all's agents, Matt, I don't know if he's in the room here, but we've got 29 out of 29 met within the first 2 weeks, and these are all things. You can look at Matt's score. We're using, he's contacting referrals through the app. He's literally telling the app what it essentially wants to hear, and that is why Matt has a score of 117 out of 120. So any questions on the meeting of the clients is as far as like from the time we transfer, you have 14 days to have met with them.
Hey, Joe. Marie Miller has a question for you. I have gotten a couple of out-of-state buyers that have been OpCity leads. So as far as meeting them, and they're, maybe 3 to 6 months out, other than me talking to them, having an online buyer's consultation and getting them set up on listing alert systems, and they're just not like I don't want to say wishy-washy, that sounds negative, but it's not like they're in a tremendous rush either. What is OpCity's recommendations then for people that are in Texas looking at, Topeka, for example, and they have no intention of coming in, or they're a year out?
Yeah, and that's a good question, and I think the real answer to that is going to always be relative within the territory, right? So you have a couple of agents here. We're looking at it. That was Marie, right? I think I heard. Is that Marie?
Yes.
Yeah. So Marie, you have a good score. It's not perfect here when it comes to meeting, but if you weren't meeting, so this is only around a third. It's probably what, like 40% if I'm doing quick math. 5 out of 13, that's good, right? That's not bad. It's not negatively impacting your score. I'll tell you one of the things that's most negatively, and I say negatively impacting your score. Marie, you have a score that's 4 points away from perfect. Okay, so you're not in a place where we're taking opportunities necessarily away from you. But one of the biggest things that you have is 4% of your referrals only show that they've been contacted. That, in my opinion, is going to be a much more significant area of opportunity, right? Because you're already doing good. 5 out of 13, that's fine, right? That we're not, no one's negatively, that's not negatively impacting your score. Greg's got 4 out of 6. Dennis has 8 out of 9. It's only going to start to look bad if you're meeting with less than a fifth of the clients that we're connecting you with. Right, if you can only meet 1 out of every 5 people that you've had a live transfer with, that would be something that would slightly start to, it should impact your score. If you're never able to meet with clients, or you're only able to meet with them a fifth of the time, that should impact part of the scoring, but it doesn't mean necessarily that your score is going to hurt, right? There's a lot of things that go into whether or not, and you see there are folks that are getting referral alerts on a regular basis. We've got Greg here with 7 closes. Right? He's never in the past 7 days used the app to contact him referrals. We're still giving him opportunities though, right? I think the biggest thing that I could say like on Greg would be his attempt to claim leads. He's only attempting to claim 50% of the alerts that we're sending. So I wouldn't, I guess to be brief in an answer to your question, meeting with clients is important. We know that you're not going to be able to meet with anybody or meet with everyone. And if you're meeting with half of the people that we connect you with, that's great, right? It's tough to meet with more than 75%, unless you're being incredibly selective about who you release or whatnot. But I don't think it's a good idea to just go in and start releasing people if they're not serious, because we'll end up connecting them back with you. All right, does that help answer your question? Do we feel good about that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The last thing is closing. So this metric measures your ability to close referrals after meeting with them in person. To calculate this, we're looking at the referrals that you have moved to the MET status and how many of those referrals have closed. It's important to note, if you close a transaction, it's been more than 90 days since you've moved the MET, score's not negatively impacted. Doesn't hurt your score to close them after 90 days of meeting. Okay, so looking at Greg here, we'll use, because I'm just on him. 7 out of the 88 that he's met within the past 90 days, or just total that he's met, I'm sorry, that he's closed, right? And that's not negatively impacting his score. But if you were putting in that you've met with a ton of clients and you hadn't closed very many of them, that would negatively impact your score, right? We are going to notice, obviously, that that you're meeting a ton of people and then not closing them. That's very quickly gonna be something that we're paying attention to. All right, so I've spent about 22 minutes kind of going through the things that we are looking at, and I'm happy to kind of take additional questions. I'm sure you'll have some additionals right now, but if nobody has anything that is urgent or that they'd like to bring up in front of everybody, then I'll kind of move on to some of the other things that you may want to consider changing about your algorithm. Do we have any burning questions for now?
Yeah, we have one.
My question is this, let's say you have a Met, but they do not qualify financially for a house. How does that affect your score, and how do you notify the app that they are not financially available to actually purchase?
There's a couple things. You can release them for credit score repair. Send a credit report. You could do a couple of things. You could put them in long-term hold, and say, listen, and put in the notes. The client does not qualify, needs to work on debt to income. Whatever it may be. You can put those notes in and move them into long-term hold. If you do think that they are a serious buyer and could afford a home in 9 months, 10 months, right? That's probably what I'd recommend doing. I think more broadly, to answer your question, is to think about this from the perspective of big data. You're not the only one that receives clients like that, right? So we're going to look at the relativeness of how many clients you release and put in that, hey, release clients that needs credit repair. If you're doing that for 80% of the clients that we're giving you, and the agent right next door is nurturing them and putting them on long-term hold and making progress with them and not just dropping them because they can't afford a down payment right now, right? That's going to be relative information. So I don't have this magic number that says, okay, hey, here's the amount of people it's okay to release. It's all going to be relative within your territory, right? We're going to look at the agents in your market and say, okay, well, this agent releases people all the time. They're constantly telling us that people can't get qualified. And, we have another agent right next door who is working through people and finding a way to help them get financed and giving them good advice. Because anytime you release a lead, my call center is going to call them back eventually, right? And we're going to say, hey, what's your feedback and whatnot? And if the client's like, hey, that client said the agent said I'd never be able to afford anything, and it turns out I got pre-qualified, that wouldn't bode well, right? That would negatively impact your scoring.
I'll just use one example. This couple was qualified for $75,000.
Okay.
And the type of home that they were wanting and the location that they were wanting, they would need at least an additional $200,000 to be able to purchase what they want and where they want.
Okay. So, and I'll point back to the big data picture, right? Like, you're not the only one that gets those leads. Every agent will receive leads like that from us at some point. They're inevitable. Buyers are dreaming, and they are not going to be able to afford a home that is within their current budget. Some agents are able to help them find a home that costs $75,000 now. And I don't feel like there's a whole lot of those that are within your marketplace, but there may be. And then they, are able to convert another sale on them eventually. I would judge that client's seriousness. If I could sell them a property for $75,000, it counts as a close. There's no more weight given to $1 million close than there is a $75,000 close, even though maybe there should be. It looks like maybe Anushka has a question.
Unmute Anushka. Like, I can ask
Hey, sorry, I'm multitasking here. Okay, so I don't know if I missed this part of, or are you going to address it later? I'm not sure. But I had OpCity and I was doing fine on it, and I think I just stopped updating. I don't know what happened. I'm delinquent right now, and I can't get back. Like, I don't see any ways for me to get back active or however that is supposed to be. So if there is a way to do that, please, if you could let us know or let me know, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Anushka, I just added a link to the chat. It gives you the outlined instructions. I can go over them in detail if we've got a lot of delinquent agents, but there's a whole YouTube video. I'd recommend opening that up, and I'll go ahead and email this over to Tammy right now. That way, I'll email both of these links here.
Okay.
But anyone that's delinquent, how to do that. You're going to have to call into the agent support phone number and take care of that. You'll have to have a bit of a coaching session with them, because obviously if we're not updating the leads and the statuses, it's going to negatively impact your score. Good question, but we can get it fixed. It's not hard. It takes about 10-15 minutes out of your day once you get on the phone with them.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
And
All right.
one more question, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So we get a call, we win the lead, but they're no longer on the line by the time we get to them. So it says, we'll give you a call back when we get them back on the line. And then I go back to work and I'm on the phone when you guys call me back, and I can't hang up on that call to take the OpCity call, and then it gets given to somebody else. How does that work?
There's a lot of moving parts to this. So this is kind of a complicated question to answer. Inevitably, the person that can help someone right now is going to be the best fit right now. And if you are the winner, you are earmarked to be the first person that we call back if the client hangs up. To paint a bigger picture, the clients that are hanging up, there's generally speaking a reason that they hung up, right? Maybe they're not as serious. Maybe they aren't really ready to talk to an agent. Maybe they don't want to waste your time. I wouldn't let those bother you. In all, being as sincere as possible. They happen. I literally, I've seen the phone screeners, and like, as soon as we go to call you, the client's like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten into? I'm about to talk to a real estate agent who wants to go show me this property. And if they're not genuinely ready to talk to a real estate agent, ask them questions and seeking help, should we be connecting them to you? Should we be wasting your time?
No, I'm not honestly saying that you should, but at the same time, as soon as that happens, I believe we get a text that says, if you're not available to pick up this call, it could negatively affect your score and nothing.
Yeah, it very, very minimally impacts your score. I wouldn't stress out about that. Those, again, claiming the lead is one of the most, the very first thing that we're looking at. Not being able to answer the phone because the client already hung up is not going to have a whole lot of significance and then impact your score.
Joe, I have a question.
Okay.
And as the broker, I just kind of need where to go with this and what direction you're looking at. On leads that are released, like Anushka, for example, being delinquent and her leads have been returned. If she's actively working those leads and she has an active buyer's agency, she has an active listing contract, she hasn't updated it in 21 days, they release that lead, she's actively working them, she has active contracts. As a broker, I can't stop that process. That's her client. So if we release the leads and you put them back into rotation, that's where a headache could ensue.
So part of Anushka's, whenever she wants to go become undelinquent, I think one of the first steps it goes is restore your released referrals. So any referrals that release can be found under the release tab. So she's going to restore them and restore to active if she's actually still working with them. Does that make sense? Again, y'all are tough to hear, so I am having kind of a hard time making sure that I understand the question. But from what I understood, you were saying that we have an agent that has gone delinquent and they've been released, but she's still potentially working with those clients. Is that the scenario that we're describing?
Yeah, that was his question. His next question is, how long do those referrals sit there? Say she doesn't update it for 90 days or whatever it might be. How long do those referrals sit there for her to go back and reclaim them?
It depends a lot on the client. So any leads that are released, we have a whole team of ISAs that will either restore them back to the agent that was originally assigned, right? We get back on the phone with the client and they're like, yeah, I'm still working with XYZ. So we wouldn't move them out of Anushka, right? A delinquent agent. We wouldn't move that. But if the client says, yeah, I'm not working with her, so we would pull them out and then we would potentially reconnect them with a different agent who is active and working. Does that answer the question?
He's asking what that time frame is. Is there a specific time frame?
It depends. No, there is not. Once the agent is delinquent, it very much is dependent on the client. And if they answer the phone and if they tell us, yeah, I'm still working with the client, the agent that's delinquent. Okay, we know that. So we're not going to try to connect you with someone else. We're going to try to get that, we're going to send the agent a notification, hey, update your referrals. But if we get a hold of that client 3 months from now and they're like, no, I'm not working with any agent, we will go ahead and connect them with a different agent.
We had this conversation yesterday, Joe and I did, about what happens if an agent is working with somebody and then they release them, but they have a buyer's agency still, but the people say they're not going to buy now. And then they reassign them to another agent, should be in our office, but they really do have a buyer agency with the first agent. So Joe and I had talked about that yesterday. What do we do in that case? And that would be, you would just have to come to us and we can Joe can reassign, or somebody at OpCity can reassign it back to the original agent if they legit have a buyer's agency that's still valid.
Yeah, that is accurate. So we can manually move them on the back end. We don't like to for a couple of reasons. But the first thing I'll say to this is, if you have a client that you have a buyer's agreement with and they've gone back online and they're re-inquiring, I would question why you've released someone that you have a buyer's agreement with, right? I would indicate that that's probably a pretty serious step in getting someone to sign a buyer's agreement. They probably shouldn't be someone that you released. If they are someone that you've released, our first shot, unless the client tells us otherwise, our first priority is to reconnect that client with the same agent that we've connected them with originally, right? Unless the client directs us completely otherwise, that they don't want to talk to the person that we've originally signed them to, regardless of whether or not you have a buyer's agreement, because we don't ask the clients that if they've done that with you. We will try to connect them back with you. But if that client has a buyer's agreement with you and you've released them and they're back online inquiring and they don't want to work with you, is that really someone that you should be working with?
I think they were thinking, when I was talking to you yesterday, Joe, I was thinking like they're just not going to qualify. So they have a buyer's agency, but say they're not going to qualify or they're not ready to buy. And then they decide later the house comes on the market they like, and then they're ready to buy again. But they really do have a buyer's agency with another agent at the same time. And they're just not answering the correct question when you ask them, are you working with another agent?
Yeah, those are part of the questions that we're asking. And, again, we can move them manually on the back end, but I really will push back on an agent that has released a client. You've gotten a buyer's agreement and you've released them instead of putting them on long-term hold. I'm going to put the onus. I'm going to say, listen, You have the responsibility of the agent to make sure that you're still in contact. And if it is someone that could potentially qualify in, 6, 9 months, a year, I'm going to tell you that you've got to keep working those, put them in long-term hold. Maybe it sounds to me like there's someone that you shouldn't have released.
So long-term hold doesn't really affect their score.
No.
Okay.
Well, the buyer agency agreement has to be dealt with first anyway, because
We're outside this realm.
Yeah.
It's not even.
But that was one of my questions to him, because I'm afraid that's gonna happen at some point in time as they release and reassign. But he said the long-term hold would be the best case.
My question, Joe, was this, basically. Anushka's situation. You keep saying you released it as the agent released it. What I'm talking about specifically is a situation Anushka's working. She's got multiple clients. She's working those clients. She failed to update in 7 days. She has those clients. She's working them. She has a buyer's agency. She's been delinquent. She can't get in the system. She has to take the time. She has to get into realtor.com through a phone call and conversation and coaching. All that's going to take time. It's not an immediate thing. What I want to do is ensure, as the broker, that we don't have crossfire agencies and that we don't have contracts or people under contract that inadvertently get released through a situation such as Anushka's, and then we get confusion on the back end. But that's something we're gonna have to handle on the front end, because.
That did happen with one of our agents.
Right.
And so I had Joe actually wouldn't help me get that one back on there. So, because we had to pay him.
Right, and then, which I agree, we just need a way to get past it. That's my question.
It was a phone call. The agent and I sat down and made the phone call to OpCity to get back in.
Yeah, and I mean, and this information is Googleable, right? Like if I just delinquent account, delinquent OpCity, it's the first link that pops up. It's not hard to find. And that onus does really boil down to the agent, right? It's not hard for us to want to hold the agents accountable and say, listen, y'all didn't update the status, right? Like I know you get behind and it's part of our jobs, and that's why we've got a bit of a grace period. I mean, 3 weeks without going in at all, it puts you in a place of if I ignored an email for 3 weeks with my job, I wouldn't have my job very long.
So I gotta go check me.
My next question is, and this has happened and it's come to my office on multiple occasions, so if we could address this, it would help. You have a person who has an active buyer's agency that did not come through realtor.com.
Okay.
They're looking at houses. We all know realtor.com is a source to look. You have to click on it, then you have to submit to get the information. We've had a few situations where one agent has been actively working a client. They've hit realtor.com. There's been initiation. Then realtor.com is wanting to assign it to another agent when they already have a buyer, because the buyers aren't honest with you up front.
Mm-hmm.
That conversation gets discussed in the initiation conversation, if you can get a hold of everybody. And if not, and they choose to release that person because of the fact that they are working with another agent, if I was to say the concerns that I have, it would be that. That's the question I get most frequently is, why are these getting referred to other agents when I'm actively working them? And I tell them it's because they're on realtor.com and they've hit submit. So I don't know if there's a way around that or not, but that is one of the hurdles we have, or I have.
Yeah, and I can empathize with that problem, because building, anytime that there's crossfire within the brokerage, that's not ideal. And I've asked this in multiple occasions, and this can be a one-off conversation if you'd like to have go into more depth on it at a later time. But if the client is back on realtor.com and they are inquiring again, on another property, instead of going to their agent who is quote unquote actively working with them and may have a buyer's agreement, I would push back on the agent and say, listen, why is that client feeling like they need to go through their own prerogative to go online and to search for their own properties? And I get it's a competitive housing market, and there's a lot of variables here. But I know that you know, I'm a salesperson, right? I'm like y'all, I eat what I kill. If Tammy needs help and she goes onto realtor.com and finds a different salesperson, I even though I've already, you know, helped Tammy and worked with her multiple times, I'm going to be curious why Tammy didn't come to me with something that she needs help with, right? Like I'm going to put the onus on myself and that ownership of saying, I want the clients and the folks that I have a professional working relationship with to know that they can come to me with anything. I mean, Tammy, the same way that I was kind of alluding to earlier, if I'm ignoring your emails for multiple days at a time, you might go find a different sales rep to help you. And, you know, you have no agreement with me, but we want to put ourselves in a place to make sure that client feels that they can come to you with all of their real estate related needs. You know, it's important to make sure that there's not a whole lot that realtor.com as a marketplace for finding a real estate agent in a property can do to keep the client from choosing to inquire with someone else. That's my PC answer there. It may not be a perfect answer, but it's the reality.
They can't work with somebody else until you address the agency agreement.
Again, that's past what you
Gotta be addressed.
that's not a realtor, doesn't get that.
They don't always have a buyer's agent say that either. Sometimes they just go work with them.
No, and my concern is your wayward buyers. We all have buyers that go out and look on multiple website platforms. They go out to realtor.com, they hit submit because it's the only way they can get information.
They don't even know what they're signing up for.
They have no clue what they just did.
Go ahead, John.
Hey, I have a question. This is Shauna. I have 2 out of town buyers for buying and selling. I'm not gonna sell their house because they're in another state. Do I release it right away and keep the buying, or do I hold on to both of them until I get them under contract and then I release the selling part? But what should I do?
So I want to make sure I understood the question. Again, it's kind of tough to hear. So you have a client that is buyer seller, they're relocating?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds, did you create the selling side? Did you create that lead in your referral manager?
No, they came to me like that.
They gave it to you? Okay. Then that was our mistake. We should have created a separate request for an agent for that particular client. Can you have Tammy email me about that one, and we can get that one handled one-off?
Yeah, I have 2 of them, you know, for the buying and 1 for the selling, but I just update both of them. But I'm not gonna sell their house because they live in, like, one's in Nashville and then one's in Missouri.
Refer them to another KW agent.
Can't
Get a
refer
referral.
them, so-
You can.
So I didn't know if I just released it and just put on the reason that it's out of state, I can't help them, or if I just hold on to them until I close the buying deal.
Yeah, I mean, I would keep the buying part of it, and again, just email us because I need a separate inquiry to be created to either connect that client with a different listing agent or to get it closed off. But I don't think that's answering that question right now in a group is not going to be I'd like to look into it more and better understand it before I give you direction. So I'd like to have that one emailed if that's okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep. No, it's a good one-off question. I appreciate you asking. All right, Tammy, how we doing? We getting through everything?
Yes, I'm working.
All right.
If you could go through and it's, there you go. You don't need me.
Don't get credit for being at the meeting. Not through the app.
I want to look at some dispatches to kind of give you all an idea of what's going on with some of these. Let's look at Dennis. Is Dennis in the room here?
No.
Thank God.
Okay. All right. So we'll use Dennis as the example here. This was a dispatch that we sent out And you could see who we sent it to and the time that a lead was offered, and then the time that it was claimed, right? So these are not in order of the time that it was offered, unless they fixed that. They may have fixed that. Looks like they did. Yeah, it looks like they did. So Dennis and Matt received this at the same time. Matt claimed it 11 minutes and 36 seconds later. We sent it at 1:02 and 6 seconds to Dennis. It was sent to Nicholas at 1:02 and 14 seconds. And because Dennis had already claimed it in that 24 seconds later, Nicholas received the, and same thing with Matt, obviously, but received the alert back that said, hey, it's already been claimed. So this order, right? These are additional agents that we sent it to. Shauna, Summer, Greg, all of these agents did not claim the lead, right? That would have been an example of a lead that they didn't even try to claim, right? And that is one of the things that we're measuring. We would have continued to send it out to all of these agents here that were eligible, Orion through Christie. But we already had a winner, so we didn't want to keep on sending it to other agents. We're not going to continue to alert additional agents. So all of this, I'm pointing this out is because we want everyone's score to be higher, and the higher your score, the more time that you will get to claim before we add another agent to the rotation, but also the higher in the priority order. The other thing that I'll point out with this, once you've received a lead, there's typically a 5 to 15 minute rule to where we aren't even going to dispatch you again within the next 10, 15 minutes, right? You're not going to receive another alert if we just so happen to get another one on the phone. But this is an example of what some dispatch looks like. And we can see the time to claim on this particular lead. So one thing that I can scroll down here. So we didn't send it to these agents. They had filtered out because the agent excluded the client category. Daniel didn't get it because of the client category. So did John, Riley, Tanner's inactive. Robbie is disabled for not updating. So Robbie didn't even get the alert because it just wasn't updating. Pamela was inactive, and Kyle is probably how I pronounce that. I just assumed was delinquent. So this was just an example of one dispatch, and we can look at multiple of these if Tammy would like, but just kind of looking for y'all's direction. Does that help kind of paint the picture of where these are being sent out and who they're offered to and what kind of order?
Any questions, anybody?
Okay. Well, Tammy, I feel like we're getting to a stopping point here. I'm sure that this will only raise more questions as folks have had time to digest and chew on this a little bit.
Hey, Joe, before you get off, yesterday when we were talking about the prospect leads, I don't properly explain those to what those emails that go out from me are. Can you explain what those email prospect leads are?
Yeah, they're anybody that has inquired on realtor.com and either would not comply with the live transfer process whenever we did get them on the line, right? They hung up on us. They, for whatever reason, maybe they just didn't qualify because they told us that they already had an agent or something like that. I don't know. That for whatever reason they didn't qualify, or we tried calling them and tried to turn them into a live transfer, and we were unsuccessful for 36 hours. So if we cannot make them into a live transfer within 36 hours, we're going to email them to you at the 36-hour mark, and that's when they turn into a prospect lead. They will turn into a prospect lead before that if hypothetically we've gotten them on the line immediately, but they hang up on us, or they just don't want to comply with the live transfer process. So like if Bob the buyer inquires right now and I call him and get him on the line and we're talking and he says, you know what, I don't want to talk to you guys, and he hangs up on us, we're not going to hang on to them for an extra day and a half. There's not a 36-hour rule. If they've not complied, we're not going to just hang on to them for whatever reason. We're going to immediately get them in your hands and let you distribute them. And I know that we're going to work together to get that integrated into, y'all are using KV Core?
No, we're using Command, and today.
Command.
I'll call you on that because today I found some information out about that.
Yeah, we can follow up about that separately, but we're going to get those routed through a round robin. But yeah, they're just people we couldn't turn into a live transfer. You know, it's an extra opportunity. My phone screeners, you know, were unsuccessful. Here is your shot at it, you know, and you didn't have to answer the phone live. All right.
I have a question.
Hold on, we have a question.
Okay, hi, this is Sandra Haynes. I'm not really active on this, so I'm gonna talk to Tammy about that. But, so I noticed when I initially was gonna sign up for this, when it was introduced to our market center, that, it talked about, you know, what the fees would be as far as upon close, which is fine. Then I noticed something that said that if the leads were to refer prospects to you, then we need to pay OpCity that as well. How's that track? Like, what if we forget? Like, I was like, oh man, I want to forget, and then I get dinged because they referred me, but then I forgot their OpCity. How does that all work? How do you guys track all that?
I had a very hard time understanding. I just don't know where the microphone is, so I'm not sure.
Can you understand this?
It sounded like there was a referral that you lost track of. That's about all I got. I apologize. It's just.
Okay, can you understand? Can you hear me clearly now?
I could hear you ask that question. Yep.
Okay, I'll talk slower. So
Okay.
I just initially, like, I'm not active on this, so you won't see Sandra Haynes on there at all. And so, but I noticed initially why I didn't want to sign up, well, we're referral based, but I noticed that it said that if you have a prospect, a referral from OpCity, and they send you a referral, say, hey, I've got a brother, sister that wants to buy or sell, then we also need to pay OpCity on your referrals. Is that track?
You asked if that was tracked. Correct? That was your question?
I asked if you're tracking my question.
I do understand. I think I understand your question. You're asking that whenever the, you know, part of the referral agreement is whenever we do give you a client and they say, all right, well, it's actually my brother that's purchasing and not me, that you're required to report those as well.
Now, what she's saying is you have a lead, you work with a lead. That lead's brother really liked what Sandra did for his brother. And he's like, hey, I really like what you did for Joe. I want you to sell me a house. So that referral has been based off of your original referral. So
Yeah, those
off the referral.
Yeah, those are not. If someone is inquiring on behalf, like let's say that I inquired for my mother or for my sister, that wouldn't be, if it is an additional person that is a completely separate buyer, those aren't going to be ones that we would require the referral fee on. It's just too hard to track. When we're cross-referencing our data and doing you know, things to track closes to make sure that we're lining up on referral fees, we're cross-referencing last names and phone numbers to tax records. So if it's a different person, different phone number, that's not going to be someone that we can, you know, hold a referral fee to.
Well, Joe, I've seen several times where it's a boyfriend, girlfriend buying together, but the girlfriend's the one who was on OpCity. And then, you know, the boyfriend's the one who could get the loan, but we still pay on those because they're technically buying the house together.
Right. Someone was inquiring on behalf of their boyfriend, their mother. You know, if I'm inquiring on behalf of my mom, and you know, and my mom ends up closing with us because I was connected to you through OpCity, obviously that needs to be reported. But if my mother's friend or my mother's sister, my aunt technically, or someone, you know, if the original inquiry was made for that person, they're going to tell us that on the line. Like we obviously have all that recorded. But a completely different person, if they're not inquiring on behalf of you know, the buyer, and they're separate purchasers, we can't hold a referral fee on someone who is a different purchaser unless they originally inquired on behalf of the person that we did that live transfer to on.
It did say that in the beginning. Yeah. But that's what it was meaning was, if it was like, I have a lot of like boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, daughter buying. I think that we've had a lot of those come through. That's what they were talking about. Not like if Dave buys a house without city and then Dale goes, oh, I like Tammy the way she worked with Dave.
That's how it
Because that
ran
could
to
get
me.
very deep.
Yeah, that's why I was like, forget that, I can't track all that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get
they
deep
could
and
do
come
that.
back.
There's no way.
Good to clarify.
I hope y'all can understand that I could not hear any of the last discourse.
Oh, no, you're good. No, you're fine. I don't think we have any more questions, Joe. I think we're good.
Okay, Tammy, you know how to get a hold of me if y'all do have other questions. Feel free to email me that one about the buyer seller that you're not going to be the listing agent on. And good luck, guys. Literally, you can go in and turn. One of the things that I did want to point out right before we leave here, on a regular basis, I see agents that have their settings very, very limited, right? They'll keep their radius very, very tight, and they have their price ranges to block out everything. All that does is give you less opportunity. It does not increase your score, right? So I like to point that out and make sure that that's clear. Like, you're only limiting the amount of opportunity that we could possibly give you, and you're entitled to do that. You can absolutely lock out, particular, price points. But I'll tell you, like, there are agents. I'll use like Jacob real quick. Jacob is listed as emerging agent, so we can't go in and lock out price points. But his radius zip code is only 10 miles. And if Jacob, like, if you genuinely don't want to, receive referrals outside of that 10 miles, I completely get it. But I would encourage you to potentially open up that, because Jacob, you've got great click rate. You're claiming 80% of what comes in, and I'll encourage you to keep doing that. But if you could open that up to 15, 20, 25 miles, if you're willing to work that and you can maintain the same velocity that you have right now, it's a good idea. Don't go in and lock out, investors, unless you're truly opposed to working with folks that are, quote unquote, making an investment purchase. Don't lock out land unless you are truly opposed to even helping someone who's inquired on land. Too often I see agents get their settings way too limited, and they're like, why don't I ever get opportunity? Well, there's two reasons. The first, one is your score, but also you've blocked out, even from the very get-go, what we are allowed to even offer you due to your own preferences. So go into your settings, look at those preferences, and make sure that they're in line with what you're even open to speaking with, and getting it's not like you're paying for it up front, right? It's a conversation. Hopefully, if it's not someone that you're interested in, it's a 5-10 minute conversation, and you can recognize that you're no longer going to work with that client if you need to release them. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. Hopefully you felt like this was productive. If you come up with other questions, feel free to forward them all to Tammy. I will do my best to answer them within the next couple of days. And if it's a one-off, I may call you directly. All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. Thank y'all. Have a good day. Good luck.